On this day in 1971, Celtic beat Dundee 8-1 at Dens Park on a pivotal day in the quest for 6 in a row. It's often forgotten that Celtic did not effortlessly sweep all before them when they won 9 league titles in a row from 1965-66 to 1973-74. In most of those seasons, the title race went down to the last 2 or 3 matches, and in only 3 was the league won by more than 4 points. One of the tightest of all was the 1970-71 season when Celtic were neck and neck all the way with Eddie Turnbull's Aberdeen. The Dons had finished the previous season in 8th place out of 18 teams, 22 points behind Celtic in the days of 2 points for a win. But they won 2-1 at Celtic Park to prevent Celtic clinching the title in front of their own fans on the 25th of March 1970, and inflicted a shock 3-1 defeat on the champions in the Scottish Cup final on the 11th of April, 4 days before Celtic's titanic clash with Leeds United at Hampden. This proved a launchpad for a serious title challenge in 1970-71, and when they again beat Celtic, this time by 1-0 at Celtic Park on the 12th of December 1970, the result saw the Dons leapfrog to the top of the league by 1 point, with Rangers well behind in 3rd place. Over the turn of the year, dominated by the tragedy at Ibrox on the 2nd of January, Aberdeen had gone 4 points ahead of Celtic, having played 1 game more. They were unbeaten in 16 games and had not conceded a goal in their previous 12. There seemed little danger of Aberdeen dropping points on the 16th of January 1971. Jim Blair wrote in the Evening Times the day before, "Aberdeen goalkeeper Bobby Clark goes for the baker's dozen tomorrow at Easter Road, 13 successive league shutouts, when Eddie Turnbull's table toppers take on Hibs, who have yet to win a game under new manager Dave Ewing." Aberdeen were in a bullish mood, and their 21-year-old captain Martin Buchan displayed in full the impetuousness of youth when he told Malcolm Munro for the Evening Times of the 16th of January, "Put the rent money on us. We've been heading in the right direction for some time, but suddenly we've matured. We know where we're going and how to get there. We've no hard and fast rules about defence and attack. Every player we've got, except for Bobby Clark, is a potential scorer. In midfield, we've got the best player in the country, Steve Murray, and if there's a better right winger than Jim Forrest, then I don't know of him. There's talk about whether we have the necessary reserve strength. We have if injuries come along. We hope we don't have to fall back on reserves, but if we have to, they'll come up trumps." Turning his crystal ball to Celtic's visit to Dens Park in the Evening Times of the 15th of January, Jim Blair wrote, "Dundee Celtic games always produce the goods, and there should be a cracking 90 minutes tomorrow, with Celtic getting through by the odd goal." Bertie Auld was brought into the team for the first time since the European Cup final in Milan 8 months before, as Jock Stein turned to the older heads in his squad for the visit to Dens Park. Jim Parkinson wrote in the Glasgow Herald on the morning of the match, "His re-emergence now means that 9 of the 1967 Lisbon team are competing for first-team places. A 10th player, John Clark, is getting consistently good reports with the reserves and may not be far behind. Only Ronnie Simpson, the goalkeeper, is no longer with the club, having retired last year after the defeat in Milan." The Lions would play one last game together on an emotion-packed day in the final league match of the season against Clyde, although a stripped-for-action Simpson was only able to lead the team out before kick-off, then made way for Evan Williams. A very experienced Celtic team lined up at Dens Park. Williams, Craig, Gemmell, Murdoch, McNeil, Brogan, Johnston, Wallace, Hood, Callaghan, Auld, sub, Hay. Only 2 goals were scored in the first half, which was a poor return for Celtic's dominance, with the veteran Auld, after a slow start, turning in a masterclass. William Hunter reported in the Glasgow Herald of the 18th of January 1971, "During his long absence, he seems to have pondered his game deeply and worked out exactly what he can do and what now lies beyond his speed and stamina. Auld has pared his work to the essentials. He does not rush about. At times there was almost a dreamlike quality about much of his work. He seemed to be playing from memory. Then, suddenly, he was doing all the simple right things. He started the moves which produced 3 of Celtic's goals, which is not bad for one afternoon." Goals from Harry Hood on 18 minutes and Willie Wallace on 44 put Celtic 2-0 up at half-time, but there was a hold-up due to crowd trouble shortly after the interval. Jim Blair reported in the Evening Times of the 16th of January. After 8 minutes of the second half, trouble flared on the terracing to the right of the stand, and play was held up for a further 2 minutes as hundreds of fans spilled onto the track and the playing pitch. Police reinforcements restored order. Where the finishing had been less than clinical in the first half, the second saw a glut of goals. Willie Wallace made it 3 after 57 minutes, and 10 minutes later, Houston scored an own goal to make it 4. Goals from Tom Callaghan and Jimmy Johnston made it 6-0 for Celtic with 13 minutes to go before Duncan pulled one back for Dundee on 80 minutes. Johnston and Hood both scored again in the last 5 minutes to seal the 8-1 victory. The pair, along with Bobby Murdoch, were the architects of the victory, William Hunter writing in the Glasgow Herald. Hood was at his liveliest and Johnston his most jinky. The winger's close dribbling in the second half baffled belief. It can be explained only by accepting the idea that Johnston had somehow laced the ball to the outside of his boot. At Easter Road, Aberdeen conceded their first goals in over 1,000 minutes of football to crash to a 2-1 defeat, Pat Stanton scoring the opener, and Celtic were breathing down Aberdeen's neck, 2 points behind with a game in hand. William Hunter saw the significance of the day and the performance of Celtic's experienced men. With exciting timing, Celtic surged into their challenge for the championship. Any team which scored 8 goals must be manned only by heroes. Some were more heroic even than others, which is to say, they looked 15 feet tall compared with an average of about 12 feet.